Hi, how's everybody doing today? Welcome to our second installment of the Goddess class, where goddesses and gods, such as yourself, will learn how to become more healthy and increase their wealth. All right, let's get started. Let me share my screen. Okay, Goddess Class 2. In our last class, we didn't get a chance to talk about the potatoes that were down on the bottom level of the food pyramid. So let's get into this. You have your potatoes, red versus brown. Who wins? Hmm. Well, red potatoes are less calorific than the brown potatoes. And also, the red potatoes have a little bit more vitamins and minerals than the brown potatoes. Isn't it interesting that most of the potatoes that we eat out in restaurants, the mashed potatoes, the french fries, the hash browns, are all made from russet potatoes? So, my suggestion to you is that when you're cooking for yourself, to go with the red potatoes. Some restaurants actually offer the red potatoes too, so that could be an option. This is one way that you can definitely cut your calories down if you are a potato lover like I am. Because potatoes are really quite delicious and they do give you good energy uh, to make your day go easy. All right, let's see what's next. Remember these slogans? Breakfast is the most important meal of the day. Or milk does a body good. And you are what you eat. Let's think about this a little bit more deeply. Commercials advertise this. Breakfast is the most important meal of the day. Well, these are words that were spoken by advertisers looking to put additional money in their pockets. Because, back in the day, we used to cook these big dinners and there would always be leftovers. So for breakfast, people would just eat leftovers and it would be really good food because it was your dinner. But at some point, somebody created this cereal right here. Okay. And they thought that it would be great to market that for breakfast. And that's what they did. But when they marketed for breakfast, they also included a lot of additives and a lot of sugar. So you can put this in the bread category. The cereal goes in the bread category. And as we talked about in our last class, bread puts a pillow into your middle. So cereal will be too. Eggs, I'm not going to get into eggs. Eggs, that's kind of like an individual choice. Some people can handle eggs and some people can't. The bacon, on the other hand, is positively and absolutely delicious, but it's really not okay for you to eat daily because it's highly calorific and it just has so much salt. So I remember back in the old days, again, we used to have a slice or two of bacon maybe once a week or on the weekends. But now that you can buy bacon so readily, people have added it to their diet more frequently, and it's not very good for you. And of course, the lovely toast there, put that pillow to your middle. So when you're thinking about breakfast, you need to be thinking about superfoods that are going to give you a lot of energy that's going to last you the entire day. But the cereal is probably not going to do that for you, and neither is the bread. Let's keep going. Now, milk does a body good, but does it? There's a lot of mixed information going around milk. Some people swear by it. They say, oh, it makes my bones strong. Other people feel very differently about it. I know a lot of folks who are much older and they're very healthy and they don't have any problems with their back or their bones. And you know what they've done? They've cut dairy out of their diet. Yes. I've also had to cut dairy out of my diet because I found that when I drink milk and eat a lot of cheese, my joints hurt. And I feel creaky and achy like an old lady. Although I may have an age of an old lady, I don't want to feel like one. So I've had to cut the milk out. I don't want to get into anything more with this, but if you have any aches and pains that you can't figure out where they're coming from, and you've gone to the doctor over and over again, and they're giving you medication after medication after medication, and nothing's working, even Mr. Bony Skeleton knows, might want to cut out that dairy. It's an option. Try it. Ever since I have given up milk and cut cheese out of my diet, I no longer have creaks in my back or anywhere else. I remember that when I used to bend down, I like couldn't get back up again. I like reach for the desk, to pull myself back up again. Now that I've been off milk, probably for 8 or 9 months, I can bend down and get back up, no problem. And if it happened for me, it can happen for you. It's just a thought. Try it. Now, this one's a biggie. Salt. How many of your favorite foods have salt? When you think about this, you think about, oh, wait a minute. I don't put a lot of salt on my food. I don't add a lot of salt on my food. If you are making your food, cooking your food on your own, and you're not adding any salt, good job. But the problem is if you're eating any type of restaurant food or buying any food in a package or a can, I'm sorry, it has a ton of salt in it. Sometimes you can't even taste the salt, but it's there. I remember on one of my slides from Goddess class number 1, I showed you some salsa. If you could imagine that in the morning, the restaurants make their salsa, and that salsa has to hold all day, or the cooks are going to have to stop making their meals, and they're going to have to go back and mix another bucket of salsa. So what do? They put a load of salt in it to make sure that it doesn't spoil, because restaurants use salt as a preservative. Now that I have eliminated most of the salt out of my diet, I can taste the salt in foods much more readily than before. So when I have salsa at the restaurants, they're extremely salty, but you may not feel that way. Let me stop here and tell you a little short story. A few years ago, I had the opportunity to go to Egypt. This is actually a picture of the Crystal Mountain from Egypt. And when I was there for 3 weeks. Of course, it was really hot. And their food selections are very different from here. They don't put a lot of salt in their food. A lot of their food is fresh, and it's mostly a vegan food. So what happened to me while I was touring all through Egypt in that sweltering heat was the heat was actually sweating the salt out of my body. How do I know that? Because when I used to take off my glasses that were tortoiseshell, they would be white in some areas because the salt was just coming out, just coming out, just coming out. Although I didn't realize that then. Then when I got back to the States and I went back to work, I went right back to my usual diet. And then I started having some skin issues. I talked about that in my last class, the Goddess Class 1, remember? So, and that's when the mystery started. Why was I having those weird spots on my skin? It was because I was reintroducing a load of salt back into my diet. And my body says, no, no more, Jacqueline, no. The body just got clear and all that heat for 3 weeks, sweated all that salt out. Let's not go back there. But as I told you before, I had to go to the doctor, get this much prescriptions, and they didn't work. And so I had to do it on my own and found out it was the salt. Once I cut back on my salt, I feel the healthiest right now that I ever have been. Crazy, huh? Totally. So everything edible in a package has salt or sugar, but a lot of salt. Everything. Don't take my word for it. Go look. Look in your cabinet, in your refrigerator, and look for the salt. Your mind is going to be blown. Okay. It really kind of, excuse me, is sad to realize when you go grocery shopping, everything's got a load of salt in it. It's kind of depressing. But that's kind of why I'm doing this class, because I need you to know what's going on with our food. Because what's going on with our food is what's going on with our health. And it's affecting our quality of life. All these cans, I'm not calling out any name brands because it really doesn't matter. It's all of them. And they all have a truckload of salt. Check it out. Now, cheese. How much cheese do you consume daily? Cheese used to be my most favorite food. I love cheese. There's so many different kinds of cheese. There's Swiss cheese and Gouda and Parmesan. I don't even want to list all of them. They are heavenly. The bad news is that my beloved cheese has a truckload of salt in it. The misery of it all. This was the last food that I refused to cut out of my diet. When I was cutting out all the different foods to see which one was affecting me and how, I refused to cut out the cheese. But because I did that, the spots on my skin never went away. And it's because the cheese is loaded with salt. There's only maybe 2 types of cheese that are low in salt. All the rest of them are super high in salt. And I also realized that I was eating cheese all day long because we put cheese on almost everything we eat now. I mean, you can have a little cheese in the morning. You can have cheese at lunch and cheese for dinner. Of course, we'll mix a little bit of other food with the cheese too, right? But unfortunately, as I've broken my own heart, if you're a cheese lover, cheese is not really good for you because it has too much salt. Unfortunately. The pain of it all. Almost everything we eat has some amount of salt in it. Look at this pizza. Let's look at the pizza. Okay, so pizza for lunch or dinner, salt. We've got some tacos. Hey, there's the salt. French fries. What do they put on French fries? Salt. Oh, I see some steak there and some chicken. Oh, and some meat kebabs there. So what exactly do you absolutely positively have to put on meat so it'll taste good? Salt? Could you imagine eating a steak, chicken leg, pork chop with 0 salt? I might want to stop eating meat if I can't have any salt on it. Maybe some other seasoning might be good. But if you've ever cooked a steak with no seasoning on it and no salt, kind of tastes like you're eating the sole of your shoe. Think about that. Try it one day. Say, I'm going to go salt free. I'm going to cook this steak. Makes you think. Let's see what else we have here. Oh, fish sticks. We're going to put that in tartar sauce, dip that in some tartar sauce or some cocktail sauce, which has a load of salt in it. So anyway, I'm not going to overkill this idea, but you can definitely see. Everything here is very salty. Okay, so they're doing it to enhance the flavor, and then they're also using it as a preservative. Let's see what's next. Can we escape from the menace of salt? I don't know. Here we've got some mac and cheese. And then, of course, oh my goodness, those lovely enchiladas with the cheese. On the tostada with the cheese, and even the vegetarian pizza down there with no meat. It's got that cheese on it. So if you want to take this class seriously and you really want to make a difference and you want to drop like 20 pounds, limit your cheese. This is a big deal. Limit your cheese. Cheese is highly calorific, and although it tastes delicious, it can hurt you. Now that I've cut back on my cheese, when I do have cheese, I can taste the salt in it. And I can also taste which cheeses have more salt than others. It's very interesting. And it's interesting how our taste buds have been changed because of all of this food that we're eating. So we have to get back into the knowing. All right. So we've come to the end of the class. What can you cut out of your diet this week? What is this week's affirmation going to be? Or maybe you can make an addition to the affirmation that you created last week from the last class. All right. So remember, an affirmation is positive self-talk. It's telling yourself what you're going to do. Okay. And don't forget to thank whatever God you believe in and thank them for your skinny and sexy shape, as if currently you have a skinny and sexy shape. You have to, every single morning you wake up. Thank you, Mother Earth, for my skinny and sexy shape. And believe it, and be grateful, and smile. Yeah. So let's review. So for the potatoes, which potatoes are you gonna lean toward? Lean toward the red potatoes. Okay, I'm not saying you can never have the brown potatoes. They are absolutely delicious. But if you lean toward the red potatoes for a little while, when you lose the weight that you want to lose, you can have brown potatoes anytime you want to. Okay, because you'll be in charge then. Breakfast food, you need to watch what type of breakfast food you eat. Okay. Some breakfast food has been drilled into your brain that this is the type of food that you need to eat for breakfast, but maybe you might need to rethink that. You want to focus on superfoods that's going to give you that energy that you need to get through the entire day. Also, remember from the last class that you can skip breakfast because your body needs that 14 hours of no eating. If you missed this part, go back and get the goddess class number 1. It talks about timing. Okay. So our breakfast should really be brunch. Okay. Watch your intake of milk, especially if you're having any pain in your body that you cannot explain, that you've gone to the doctor for and they've given you medications, but it's not working. Try it. Just try to cut the dairy out for 2 weeks. Let's see what happens. Let me know. Salt is a big one. Salt retains weight, it retains water, and too much salt is bad. So if you're having any skin irritations, and the skin irritations can look all kind of ways. I remember a lady came to see me and her feet were like swollen. They were gigantic. She's having too much salt. And other people have bumps, other people, they're all kind of different versions. Okay, so if you're having any issues with your skin that you've gone to the doctor with and you haven't had any relief, be serious about cutting out that salt. And if you're serious about cutting out that salt, then you want to cut out the cheese. Okay? Now I have sugar on here because I'm going to address sugar in the next class. All right. If you have any questions, please feel free to email me, ask me any questions that you want. And then I will see you next time in Goddess class number 3. It has been a complete joy to be here and talking with you all. And I will see you next time. Thank you.